Hey, welcome to the Common Good Podcast. It's a
Doug,
special week around
It's
here.
a Wednesday. What are we doing?
It's a Wednesday. We're doing 2 a week right now. Rob, you know what this reminds me of? Back to the good old days when we used to do a daily podcast. And I know that people have been crying for it. You know, I know that Mike Stavlin and others have been saying it's too much happening. We need the Common Good Podcast on every day again. So maybe we'll figure that out. But at least this week we're doing it 2 back-to-back days.
Here's how I know that we had a stinker of a podcast yesterday, and which is why we're back trying again today, because there was no text from Mike Stavlin talking about how great the podcast was.
Yes, and that could be Mike Stavlin when he finally does hear the audio version.
Yeah,
may choose to not text us, but I will say I just moments ago published that podcast. Okay. So it is just now because I was traveling in good force one, coming back from Tennessee. Lots of stuff is here in the studios of Peacedale Avenue.
Maybe people are saying, "Why in the world are you guys podcasting on a Wednesday?"
Yeah, what kind of a world do we live in? Well, Rob, today on the podcast, I'll tell you, it's a special thing. I'm going to do something I have never done before, and that is I have written an introduction of our guest.
Okay, did you write it or did ChatGPT write it?
I have a writing partner, and only one of us is heartless and cold and just sheer facts. And then ChatGPT is real full of emotion and care and goodness. Well, today on the podcast, we're going to welcome a guest, Rob, who really knows how to tell a story. And he also knows how to tell the truth. And his stories aren't just the kind, Rob, that play out on the silver screen, on your iPad, or on that 80-inch television that you have in a room that's far too small for that size TV. They're stories that shape a nation. I'm speaking, of course, of Billy Ray. He's a master of narratives. He's a screenwriter and a director who has moved millions with his stories, and not just moved them, but called them to the common good. He's the creative force behind Captain Phillips, that riveting Oscar-nominated film about courage and crisis and leadership. He wrote and directed Shattered Glass, the haunting tale, depiction of what's going on in journalism. And then came Breach and Richard Jewell and The Hunger Games and the Comey Rule. And Billy Ray doesn't just stop at storytelling. He steps into the civic and political fray himself, using his voice and his craft and his heart for the common good. Raised in Encino, California, Billy has worked not only in Hollywood with Hollywood's most elite, but he's also behind the scenes working to help save our democracy for the normal, average, ordinary person. In 2020, he put his creative firepower into political campaigns, writing and producing spot-on messages that have helped shape the political consciousness. He's worked with many candidates who are running for office around the country, and he's the director of all kinds of good ways and positive ways of thinking about things that resonate deeply with the American people from all backgrounds. And it's a true patriot, this man, and he's not afraid to challenge any power and to call us forward as a nation. Billy Ray, we want to welcome you to the Common Good Podcast.
Wow, I'm going to try to live up to your faith in me. Thank you for those beautiful words. Good to be with you.
And I will say, Billy, you are a friend and the most just kind and dedicated and thoughtful person working in these areas. So an honor to write a little intro for you, my friend.
Well, thank you. I've been incredibly blessed in my life and happy to do what I can to try to save our country, which unfortunately has needed a lot of saving.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, so Billy, let's talk about how you get into this. How does a kid from Encino, first of all, end up writing films? I would love to know that. How does somebody become a film writer, a director? How do you? I mean, I feel like I've heard the stories of actors and how they get into the world, but how does somebody who makes the films and the scripts? How do you get into the world?
I grew up around it. As I said, I grew up in the Valley. As we call it out here. Oh. My parents divorced when I was 4, but I lived with my mother in an apartment building on Balboa Boulevard with my mother and my sister. My father was a literary agent. He represented screenwriters, so I was always around it, always aware of it, and acutely aware of the power of movies. I remember when I was 11 or 12, and my mother had just taken me to see One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Okay. And I walked out just shell shocked. And it was the first time I realized, oh, wow, that's what movies can do to you. Oh, I want to do that. And have been trying to hit that bar ever
All right.
since.
So let me just clarify. You're 11 or 12 years old.
Mhm.
And you can understand what's going on in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That is a level. I mean, that was an intense film, and you figured it out. I saw that film. I don't know. I was like 16. I didn't know what was going on.
I knew it was having a gigantic emotional impact on me.
Got it.
And I understood at that moment that screenwriting is an intellectual exercise, but it's designed to elicit an emotional response. It's not unlike sermons in that way. If I write a script and I show it to friends and they say, this is the smartest script I've ever read, I have failed 1,000% because I'm hitting them here and not in their guts. When you write a script that works, people read it and they go, I love this. I was so scared. I was so sad. I can't believe you killed that guy. It's your job to do the thinking as a screenwriter so that they can do the feeling. That's the whole trick of movie making. And by the way, not at all dissimilar to writing speeches for the electeds and the candidates that I serve. And when I say serve, I mean for free. I mean, I help 85 sitting members of the House and Senate with messaging, but I don't charge them for it. This is my public service. But anyway, the point is, when you're writing a screenplay or when you're writing a speech, you locate where your audience is emotionally. You lead them to where you want them to go emotionally. You tell them your story in a way that makes them feel that it is their story. You don't lecture or scold. You certainly don't tell them that they're dumb or weird or deplorable. You invite them into an emotive experience. That's what movie making is. I imagine that's what writing a sermon is, isn't it?
Well, I think for the good sermon writers that I've seen, yes, I think that is what they do. Okay, friends, I just want to note to you here. You're in a master class already. If you haven't pulled out a pen and a paper or grabbed that phone and started jotting down a line, like, your job as a screenwriter is to do the thinking so your audience can do the feeling. Like, that is this is the kind of gold that's just gonna.
I'll give you the simplest
all
breakdown.
day.
Okay, so the simplest breakdown of it, and then we'll talk politics and faith, which is what we're here to talk about. But essentially, when you are writing a movie, you have your hero, your protagonist, and they have two problems. They have an external problem, something outside themselves that they must deal with. They've got to stop a killer, they've got to catch a shark, they've got to put out a fire, whatever that is, an external problem. But then they've got an internal problem, something about them internally that's broken, that only your movie can fix. In addressing the external problem, they're going to be forced to deal with the internal problem. And if you've architected it right, they will solve both at the exact same moment. Okay. What's critical is that they're so focused on that external problem, they're unaware of their own internal evolution, even though that's really the story that we're watching. In other words, if you stop Chief Brody in the middle of Jaws and say, what are you doing? He'd say, I'm trying to catch a shark. He wouldn't say, I'm getting over my fear of the water.
Yeah.
Right? He's unaware of that evolution. If you would say to Rocky in the middle of that movie, what are you doing? He'd say, well, I'm training to take on Apollo Creed, the greatest that ever was. Yeah. He would not say, well, I feel like a loser and I think this journey might really help me. Right? He's not aware of how he's changing inside, but they change profoundly inside because you've given such a huge problem outside to deal with.
So, Billy, let's transition that into the political space, because one of the things that I care a lot about is, and one of the mistakes I think a lot of candidates for office make is they make the candidate the hero of the story.
Correct.
When voters ought to be the hero of the story, and
Every
candidates ought to be positioned as the Mr. Miyagi, the Yoda, the trusted guide who helps voters get to where they want to be. And if you look at, for instance, 2016, Donald Trump, Make America Great Again, is speaking to a desire that voters have and making them the hero of the story, himself the trusted guide, while Hillary's slogan of "I'm with her" makes her the hero of the story. And so I'm curious, if you agree with that take, and B, if we think of it that way, what's the journey that as we craft a political narrative, what's the external and internal journey that voters as the hero of the story need to go on?
Okay, I can reduce it to 2 words. You matter. That's it. That's the whole game. 65% of Americans believe that they don't matter. 65%. The need to matter is primal. We come out of the womb needing to matter. When that drive, that societal drive, is not met, civilization crumbles. That is when people grab an AR-15 and go into Sandy Hook and say, I don't matter, watch this. Okay? Right now, in the country that we all love, 62% of the population believes that if they make enough noise, they can make a corporation pay attention to them as a consumer. 62%. 4% of Americans believe that if they make enough noise, they can make their government pay attention to them as a citizen. 4%, wow. Which means 96% do not. Okay? So that is a group of people who believe they don't matter. So let's take you as an example, Rob. Okay, if you were, for some reason, going to run for Congress in your home district, okay, what I would have you out there saying, which I know you believe to be true, is we are so blessed in this district. We have a lot of vets here, a lot of military families. Mission is a sacred word to them. Mission is a sacred word to me too. You are my mission because you matter. You matter to your family. You matter to your neighbors. You matter to your community. You matter to our collective future. And you matter to me. You are the reason that I'm doing this. Okay? Everything comes back to that. Let's not complain about Trump anymore. We have been warning America about Trump for 10 years, and in every election, his vote total increases. Okay? Yep. Let us now speak from the position of advocacy for the people who do not have a voice in this government. Let's not scream about that horrible bill because it was Trump's idea. That just makes us sound deranged. Let us scream about that bill because it is going to leave behind 17 million Americans who are no longer going to have health care. It's going to leave behind vets. It's going to leave behind the elderly. It's going to leave behind kids. Let's be the voice of those people because they matter.
So, Billy, again, thank you for that. So many people don't know about policy. Like they just literally don't know. And there's so many policies. Like you ask a candidate running for office, what are your top 10 policy initiatives? That might not even reach the top 50 policy issues for another group of people, right? There's so many things you could care about, from the economy to the planet to the way things are structured to how Congress operates to democracy. So many things we could care about.
Yeah, and I would, not to interrupt, but I would argue that Hillary put out about 200 policy papers during the 2016 campaign. Did you read any of them?
Yeah, not a single one. And I heard from Kamala Harris, who we supported aggressively, and from Joe Biden, who we supported aggressively, them say things like, you can go to my website and read about my position on that, right? Which again, I go to a lot of websites, but rarely, to have that emotional need met of what are we going to do about the problem that seems like it's awaiting us.
Policy papers don't meet your emotional needs? No way.
Yeah, rarely. If they're read in a dramatic voice by my AI, then maybe I could feel slightly moved because I have a very strange relationship with the voice of my AI. Because people feel that politics is an indicator of how good of a person they are, and I believe this very deeply. People vote the way they vote because they think it makes them a good person, and they're doing the right thing in their mind, and sometimes they feel trapped. Sometimes they feel caught. They feel like they don't have good choices, all kinds of things. But when they make a choice believing that's my current best option. And frankly, I think this is true about a lot of people on a lot of issues. I have a friend who works in addiction, and he said a lot of addicts truly believe that using their drug of choice or behavior of choice is their current best option to deal with their emotional state. We need to give them other options, right? So it's kind of dealing at a fundamental level. So because politics becomes so personal, and people will say things like, I don't like Congress, but I actually do like my congressperson, or how do you, as a message writer, saying don't focus on Trump as the enemy, and we may have an unknown candidate for congressional seats or for other federal offices, how do you message in a way when people are looking for someone and not just a group of better ideas? You see what I'm getting at?
I do. Look, I spend a lot of time trying to rescue my party, the Democratic Party, which right now polls slightly ahead of syphilis in terms of its popularity with the American public. And there are very, very good reasons for that. So I don't think at this point anyone can run on trust me and trust this institution that I represent. Okay. I think the goal is to say, here are the 10 things you care about. I care about them too.
Yeah.
Let's have that conversation. Okay. But what I try to tell my candidates and my electeds, I try to teach them how to sound less like a Democrat so that they can make arguments that independent voters can actually hear, because Democrats tend to speak in a frequency that only liberals can hear.
Yeah.
But the truth is that 66% of this country is either Republican or independent, which means they're conservative by nature. And you have to understand the psychology of what makes somebody a conservative. You have to understand what binds them together politically. And that's where it starts. It starts not with what institution you're representing, but again, because the voter is the thing that matters, it starts with, what do they care about?
Yeah.
What are the things they care about? And what are the things that make them identify as a human being? In other words, right now in America, 68% of the population is Christian. 88% of the homes in this country have a Bible, and the average has 4. Okay? In the 2024 Democratic platform, there are mentions of Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, and Islam. Do you know how many mentions of Christianity there were in the 2024 Democratic platform? 0. None.
Wow.
Okay? That is not just political suicide.
Yes.
That is discriminatory. I'm not Christian, by the way. I am not of your faith. And I want to talk to you about this webinar that I listened into the other day that was sort of mind-blowing for me as someone who is not Christian. It was an all-Christian webinar. We'll get to there in a second. But the point is, I don't want to be part of a party that discriminates. And yes, you can discriminate against the majority. Of course you can. In what business can you say to 68% of the potential customers, not only you don't matter, but you're the problem? That's insane.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. Why? Kamala Harris is a church-going Baptist. Why did we treat that like it was a secret or somehow a character flaw?
Yeah.
I can tell you why. It's because the way a democratic mind operates is, if 68% of the country is Christian, we instinctively think, who's going to protect the rights of the other 32%?
Yeah.
Who's going to be the voice of that other 32%? Or they're going to be marginalized. That's a dumb way to run a party. It's how you lose to a guy who is selling sneakers and fragrances during an election. It's how you lose all 7 swing states and the popular vote to a guy that everybody knows is chaotic, corrupt, and criminal. Okay, that's how you lose them. Let me give you some more numbers, if you don't mind. I'm just sort of
I love it.
ranting. Okay, I'm riffing right now. In a recent poll, Americans were asked, what percentage of this country do you believe is transgender? Americans said 21%. The answer is less than 1. Americans were asked, what percentage of our country do you think is Jewish? Americans said 30%. The answer, I can tell you from personal experience, less than 2. Americans were asked, what percentage of our country do you think is Black? Americans said 41%. The number is 12. Clearly, white America does not know what country it's in demographically.
Wow.
They have begun to believe that they are a minority. They have backed into tribal corners. And the result, of course, is MAGA. And here's the Democratic Party confirming that lie by saying to 68% of the country, you don't matter.
Yeah.
So here's what I would like, and I challenge all of my Democrats to do, okay? 6 sentences that are incontrovertibly true, empirically true, and no Democrat will say them out loud. And I am totally convinced that the Democrat that does will be the next president of the United States.
Hold on. Okay, I got my pen and paper.
Ready?
Go.
This is all you have to say. Okay, here we go.
All right.
Wanting secure borders does not make you a racist. No, it doesn't. Okay? Owning a gun does not make you a school shooter. No, it doesn't. Disagreeing with us on abortion, and I feel very strongly about a woman's right to choose, but disagreeing with us on abortion does not make you a fascist. No, it doesn't. It might just be your religious belief. We have to honor that. You're still welcome in this party. 4, being unsure about vaccines does not make you a flat earther. You're allowed to have that doubt. You're still welcome in this party. 5, maleness is not inherently toxic. We have really got to get over that one. That's insane. Look at some of the people that the Republican Party has now lionized, okay, that we despise. Andrew Tate, Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene. None of them apologize for being a man. Okay? We need to learn something from that. Okay? And 6, being Christian is not the same as being a white nationalist.
Mm-hmm.
We got to get over that one too. Okay? All of these people are welcome in our party. All of them. They all have a role to play. The left is a part of our party, but it is not the sum of our party, and it should not be the face of our party. Okay? We are not going to go out and win more votes by correcting people on their pronouns or trying to win the woke Olympics. I'm sorry. We're just not. We're just not. Freedom matters to people. It matters to people more than any other value in America. Freedom outpolls justice as a virtue in America by 22 points. It's not close. And if you want to know what Americans think of equality, it's 10x down from justice. These are the realities on the ground. When you tell people how to talk, you are taking their freedom away. Okay? Yeah. And I know this matters deeply to progressives. I know it does. I know pronouns matter to them. I know wokeism matters to them in a really sincere way. I get it. Okay? But it's going to keep costing us elections. And right now, we have a moral obligation to win.
Okay. That's
the
great.
Democracy of our country, the idea of the American experiment is on the line. That outweighs everything else.
So many questions, but I'll start with this one. So we did a poll of religious voters, vote common good, and for the first time in 40 years, abortion was not the number one issue to religiously motivated voters in America.
Amazing.
It was transgender issues. Do you see that as a snapshot or a trend? I think it's probably driven by, I know it's probably 100% driven by Trump's commercials that he ran about Kamala during the presidential race and the demagoguing about men playing women's sports. Knowing that the lives of less than 1% of the population has become the number one issue to religiously motivated voters in America. How do you recommend a candidate talk about it?
Okay. Do you know what breaking the frame means, Rob?
I do.
Okay. Well, you were supposed to say no. So
Pretend
that
I
could
don't.
explain it.
No,
Pretend I don't.
I do,
I know
but
how to-
maybe folks that are listening don't. I'm sure Doug does
I know
not
how to
know
play
that trick.
improv.
Good Lord, Rob.
Yes,
that was the
Ian.
greatest tee up ever.
I've waited to learn.
Okay, take two. My goodness. Hey, Rob, do you know what breaking the frame means?
I might have an idea, but I really need you to spell it out for me, Bill.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Breaking the frame means that when you as a candidate are asked a question that's an obvious trap, you don't answer the question. You reject the premise of the question. Okay, I'll give you an example. In 2002, 2003, W wanted to invade Afghanistan and Iraq, and he sent out Dick Cheney on all the Sunday morning talk shows to defend it. And on every Sunday morning talk show, Dick Cheney was asked the same question: what's the cost of going in terms of men, material, and money? And on every Sunday morning talk show, he broke the frame. He said, what's the cost of not going? Because had he answered the actual question,
Right.
the true answer would have been, well, I think we're going to be there for 20 years. It'll probably cost $7 trillion and 5,000 American lives. Who's in? Okay. By contrast, October 7th, 2016, the Access Hollywood tape comes out. Excuse me. 3 days later, Hillary's on a debate stage with Donald Trump. She's asked about the tape in the first question. She does 90 seconds on sexual predators, changes nobody's mind, and wins no votes. Imagine if she had broken the frame. Imagine if she had said, I'm not going to comment on the Access Hollywood tape. The world can make up its own mind about Donald Trump. My focusing on that tape won't get one of you a job, won't get one of you health care, won't clean one river, or build one school. That's what the administration is going to be about. That's what I'm going to spend my time on. She wins by 10 points. She couldn't do it. Okay, so how does this impact you? Okay. Forgive me.
Forgiven.
I had food poisoning over the weekend, which, by the way, brought me far closer to God in my personal relationship. But my voice is still shot. Okay. If I were a candidate running as a Democrat and some Republican, like, for example, your future opponent, Rob, were to drop trans on me, here's what my answer would be. What is the name of the Republican in your district, Rob?
Steve Womack.
Steve Womack. Okay. So hypothetically, if I were on a debate stage and Steve Womack said, oh, all Rob Ryers wants to do is turn girls into boys and make girls unprotected in school sports, I'd say, Steve, both as a minister and as a candidate, I've been in every corner of this district, and I've met people on their front porches and in their living rooms and at town halls and county fairs and fish fries. And you know what they talk to me about? They talk to me about the high cost of living and insulin. They talk to me about their fear that their kids will never be able to afford a home. They talk to me about having clean rivers to fish in and clean air to breathe. They talk to me a lot about what's going to happen to their mom who's living on Medicaid. You know what they never asked me about? And I mean never. This issue. Ever. But you've decided, Steve, as a member of Congress, that rather than focus on those things, you think your job is to follow a bunch of middle schoolers into their locker room to inspect their genitals? Okay. I don't get your fixation with it. I don't understand. And I'll be over here solving people's problems. Mm-hmm. Let's see at the end of the day, who impacts more lives? Okay. That's breaking the frame. And when he says, oh, all I want to do is preserve Arkansas's families, you say, oh, really, Steve? I'm kind of thrilled you want to talk about that. I'm confused because you cut Medicaid, you're against Head Start, you voted against SNAP, you voted against parental leave and higher pay for teachers, you voted against Meals on Wheels for seniors, you voted against protecting our vets from burn pits, but now you want to talk about what's best for Arkansas's families? Welcome to the conversation. Where the hell have you been? That's how I would talk to Steve. Yeah. You get him on his, in football terms, you get him on his side of the 50 playing defense, you put him on roller skates and you push. And that is what Democrats need to do on the transgender issue. They need to talk about it in the perspective that it actually enjoys in our lives, which is zero. Okay? You cannot help transgender people by losing elections. You cannot. You need to speak to people in a way that impacts their lives materially, and then gain power, and then let's do the right thing. Okay? But we're not going to get there by they, theming. We're just not. I'm sorry. I have nothing but respect for the transgender community. I will do all I can to protect them. And if you are a man who is trapped in the body of a woman and you are pregnant and you want to call yourself a pregnant person, great. I would die for your right to do so. I will not tell a single American that they have to call you a pregnant person. No, I will not. I'm not going to take their freedom away. I'm not going to tell them how to talk. I'm not going to tell them they're deplorable for not doing so. Part of the problem with my party is that we insist that voters celebrate things that they have just learned how to tolerate.
Yeah.
You ask your average Trump voter about gay rights, and he'd say, okay, gay rights, I don't care. Okay, I know a gay guy. He works in HR. He's fine. I'm fine. But then we say to them, oh, no. If you don't march in a parade, you're a homophobe. Of course they go vote for the other guy. Of course they do. We drive them screaming into the arms of Republicans every 2 years. It's it's political malpractice.
There are people who really fully believe that voters of various opinions and approaches are wrong, and their job is to tell them that they're wrong.
Yeah, you know what those people are called? Failed candidates. That's who they are. Name me one of those who's ever won, ever, on any level.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
You can win that way as a Republican, by the way.
I was going to say, Republicans win that way all the time. Yep.
You cannot as a Democrat, not one.
So here's the thing, Billy, that I think is really helpful here. One is I think what you're driving toward is how do you create a sense of empathy between a candidate and voters, so they feel like a candidate.
I wouldn't call it empathy. I wouldn't. What I would say is, and it's something I learned from you, that a Christian voter doesn't necessarily need a candidate to come by and say, I'm Christian too.
Yes.
It's not affinity. It's that they want a voter to come by and say, hey, what you do in your community matters.
Yeah.
It makes your community better. And I value it. I mean, I can tell you as someone, I'm never running for office, ever, ever, ever. Okay. But as someone who was raised Jewish, I would be proud to walk into a church and say, what you do here matters.
Yeah.
I respect it. I admire it. I need it because I need to build community.
Yeah.
Okay. That is not me walking in and saying, hey, guess what? I just became a Christian because I need your vote.
Right. Right.
That's not it. So again, it's not empathy. It's regard. It's respect.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's appreciation and valuation.
Yeah. And seeing the connection between those people. In our world, we say there's 6 words for Democratic candidates with Christian voters. I like you and we need you.
Exactly.
And you really have to say both of them. And a lot of, Elie Wiesel is the first person I heard coin the phrase that the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. Agreed. And when you say to a large constituency of Americans, the thing that motivates you, I don't even care about. And somewhere in the numbers of 70 to 80% of Americans feel that their faith or spirituality motivates their political life. Democrats seem to say things like, well, whatever gets you here is fine, but I don't really want to hear about it. I kind of don't care. If it's that, like, keep that. It's part of the no talk rule. Keep that quiet.
And it's do you know Hillary Scholten from Michigan?
Very well. Yeah, we work with
one of my favorite members of Congress, a woman of deep faith, and not alone, by the way, in my caucus.
Yeah.
Hillary will tell you that she is a Democrat not despite her faith, but because of her faith. Because she believes in a biblical call to justice. She believes in protecting the oppressed. She believes in stewardship of the planet. These are core biblical ideas that are at the center of the Democratic Party. How on earth can we separate them from our political orthodoxy?
Okay, so why do Democrats do it? I mean, this has been the puzzle we've been trying to solve because we think that in some ways, whatever whatever puzzle was being solved by the Democrats that got us to the place where this political party doesn't want to recognize religions, to the degree, so people know, that in the voter file, the thing is called the VAN, which is the way that we organize if a voter's political identity, the Voter Action Network file. In 1992, they chose, as Democratic Party, to remove religious identity as one of the organizing structures. They took it away. Said, like, we don't care what somebody's religion is. So whatever got Democrats to the point where they truly thought, I don't need to care about someone's religious identity, I don't think it served the party well. We have to kind of figure out what was going on there that made that, to borrow a phrase from earlier in the conversation, the current best choice for the Democratic Party. And what keeps them being afraid of this? What do you think it is in the work that you do? You know, we feel like we have a dog in the hunt because we care a lot about these religious voters, and we want to stop having Republicans have their way with them, and we want Democrats to put up a fighting chance. But how do you see it?
Okay. In 1980, when Ronald Reagan was running for president against a born-again Christian, it seems people forget that, Jimmy Carter, the first born-again Christian ever to serve as president of the United States, and a man whose faith was never questioned, ever.
Right.
But when Ronald Reagan ran against him in 1980, the formation of the moral majority began. Mm-hmm. It was Jerry Falwell, it was Swaggart, it was all of a very specific wing of the church that was rallying around abortion when it was the hot button issue in America. And remember, we were not that far removed from the ERA,
right,
which was also a sort of a dividing line in terms of religion. It was a radical reaction to what was the emergence of the gay community in America. And the religious right all of a sudden became this factor that swayed an entire election in 1980. And it wasn't just a win, it was a landslide. It was, I mean, incumbents don't lose by that many states, right? Like Jimmy Carter did. At that moment, the Democratic Party, rather than trying to win back the religious right in America, decided to find another coalition. Oh. That was the mistake. That was the mistake, in my view. And, you know, in 1980, I was 17. So I was watching it from afar. But since then, the Democratic Party seems to be content with, well, we have enough Christian votes that we can usually get by.
Yeah.
Okay. And in the case of Biden, because of the phenomenal work that you guys did in swing states, they did have enough, just enough. Okay. But when they have a candidate like Hillary Clinton, that is, who seems to be anti-religion, or at least not religious in any way, or a candidate like Kamala Harris, whose Baptist roots they chose not to embrace.
Yeah.
It looks to the rest of the country like we are actively saying religion is a bad thing.
Yeah.
And then that gets enforced by members of Congress in our caucus who speak in public as if their worst fear is pissing off the 23-year-old Wesleyan grad on their staff. Okay? And that is just no way to run a party.
A major political party.
So what I would propose is something different. And I have proposed this to a number of the people that I try to help with messaging, and they've embraced it because I think its roots are found in what was on the side of your bus. I believe that this next wave of elections will be about faith over fear. Faith is a broad term. It can mean faith in God. It can mean faith in religion, but it can also mean faith in our Constitution, faith in democracy, faith in each other, faith in our unity. Okay? When you challenge a corrupt and chaotic White House that is putting faith over fear. When you stand up
Yep.
for vets and the elderly and children, people who are just being cruelly disadvantaged and forgotten by this government, even at the risk of your own arrest for raising your voice, that is putting faith over fear. When you challenge your own party to be its best self, to ignore its lunatic fringe, and to move to where the votes are, that is putting faith over fear. And of course, when you listen to a podcast like this and you decide you are going to be one of an army of people who care deeply about their religious faith and can marry that to the values of the Democratic Party, because the other party is the opposite of faith. The other party runs on fear over faith and runs on the politics of division and runs on making you hate your neighbor. It's a party with no idea. The only way they can win is by making you hate your neighbor. Yeah. When you put that all together, when you choose faith over fear, you benefit, your soul benefits, your connection to whatever is up there benefits, your relationship to God benefits, your neighborhood benefits, your country benefits. We all win. That's what I think we need.
So on the morning of November 5th, 2024, I had a high level of confidence in that argument.
Yes.
On the morning of July 16th, 2025, I'm shaken with that argument because I heard this from you.
My confidence in it is higher.
Your confidence is higher.
Much higher.
All right. Fill me with hope, brother. How so?
Okay. I was recently asked, I was flown to Virginia to appear at the Northern Virginia Women's Summit, the NOVA Women's Summit.
Okay.
I was there to do some candidate training about, 25 House of Delegate candidates in Virginia that I was going to talk to about messaging. I was going to preach my particular evangel.
Okay.
Yes, and we had somebody in the chat say that they listened to you last month in Virginia.
How did I do?
Well, they said pure genius. So there you go.
Oh my goodness. Well, that is a very big word for what I did. But I really
not to interrupt you, but it's
you can always interrupt me for that, Rob. That's totally fine.
Pure genius, Billy. Pure genius.
Okay. So while I was there, they put me on this panel, and I don't know, there were 900, 1,000 people in that room, 95% women, and all of them progressive. Okay, to the extent that the person in front of me on the stage ended her speech with "Si se puede," which is okay. It was low-hanging fruit. All right. Sorry. It just was. But I get up there and I say, no, we're doing this all wrong. No. We got to start reaching out to Christian voters. We've got to start telling gun owners we don't think they're school shooters. We've got to reach out to people who disagree with us on abortion. We have to make room for them and room for people who don't agree with us on vaccines. Yeah. We have to make room for everybody, because our obligation now is to win, right? We've got to get our tent bigger. Identity politics makes our tent smaller. I went up there and I unloaded on that room. You would have thought they were going to boo me out of Virginia. No, they stood up and applauded. And
really?
People came up and said, thank you, thank you, thank you. Nobody's talking like that. Then I moved into this breakout session where I was going to be working with 25 candidates. The room was big enough for 24 of us. There were 100 of us in there. People were standing against the walls. There was no AC, but they stood there for an hour and a half because all they want to do now is win. All that purity test, social justice warrior stuff, it's done. It's over. It is a failed strategy. AOC took the pronouns off her website. What does that tell you? The party is ready for change. I mean, fundamental, massive change.
Okay.
I will give credit to Donald Trump for one insight, only one, but it was a good one. In 2015, he intuitively knew that he could walk into the Republican mainstream and say, hey, the people running your party are morons. Get on my back. I know how to win. Okay. And not only would the Republican base not punish him, they would reward him. And the Republican hierarchy that he had just accused of being morons would turn around and say, you're right. We're absolutely morons. We're going with you. Okay?
Yeah.
I am more convinced than ever that in 2027, the Democratic running candidate for president who says, this party has run itself into the ground. Get on my back. There's the hill. I know how we're going to get over it. That person is going to become a messianic figure and will be the next president of the United States. And I'm certain this is about to happen. There will be whispers of it in 26, but no one who's running for the House is going to know how to lead that sort of national campaign. But a presidential figure will. I am telling you, this party is so ready to rewrite itself. It is so terrified by losing and by what's happening as a prospect of losing. And of course, Trump, because he truly does not have interest in government, is going to make it easier because he's going to run the economy into a ditch.
Yeah. So, Billy, if it's not secure borders, if it's not gun ownership, if it's not abortion, if it's not vaccines, if it's not maleness, if it's not Christianity, these 6 issues that you identified as, hey, we need to have some openness to us.
Yeah, let's stop making the boogeymen. In other words, if we are going to die on the hill of diversity, that embraces diversity of thought.
Yes.
We have people in our party who disagree with us.
Yeah.
Right.
So if there are disagreements on these 6 things, what is the unifying factor? What is the thing that pulls Democrats together?
Easy. Okay. We bring people into the middle class. That's what we do. Okay. We make the Arkansas dream possible. Rob, in your district, there are people who as children knew that their parents worked really hard during the week. And every once in a while, they went up to that place in the lake, right? That place on the lake, that cabin that your family owned, right? And if it was a good year, once a year, you'd go to Disney World, right? That was the dream. Work hard, pay your bills, go to the place you keep on the lake, have fun with your kids, take them to Disney World. They get to go to college. Everybody wins. Americans don't believe that dream is accessible to them anymore. Okay. We know the Republican Party cannot deliver on that dream. Cannot, will not, has no interest. Okay. Their interest is in making Jeff Bezos richer. That's their job. That's their value. That's their true north. That's their mission. Okay. It's about dark money, special interests, and taking care of lobbyists. Okay. We bring people into the middle class. We think the Constitution is inviolable. We think democracy is the most important value in America, and that freedom is the way that we get there. Okay? We believe that small businesses need more help than big businesses do. We believe that labor needs to be protected. We believe that there is no higher object of government than caring for children. We believe that a country that doesn't stand up for its vets and its elderly is a failed experiment. We believe that government is there to supply the big stuff. The fundamental contract between government and the governed is we take care of the big stuff, so you're free to lead your best life. We take care of border security, national security, economic security, food security, justice. We take care of infrastructure. We take care of COVID. We take care of inflation, and you get your kids to school on time. That's the fundamental contract, which has been torn in half by this administration. There is so much to run on.
There's so much.
So much to run on as a Democrat. You have to go out of your way to.
When we were on the,
we're like in a master's class.
When we were on the tour in 2024, especially September and October, those months, we would regularly travel in our buses, but then we'd have to take an Uber somewhere, or we would meet people walking by our outside events and so on. And we'd come back in the end of the night and kind of talk about how things are going. And regularly people in our group would say to each other, I had that experience again where a person of color was my Uber driver and they were telling me why they're voting for Trump. Or a person walked by our event and we were sure by sort of looking at them that they were going to be someone who was going to be supporting Kamala Harris. And they're like, nope, I don't feel included in the Democratic Party anymore. That we would say to each other, like, that's not the real thing though, right? What we're seeing on the video clips, like we're trying to like figure out what reality is. It's like when you're stuck in a relationship that's falling apart. So Democrats would say to us, and I've heard them say over and over, the majority of Americans agree with us. What we need to do politically is to get more of them to turn out and get more of them to stop voting against their best interest and all these other statements, assuming that the Democratic Party represented the majority of Americans by a great margin. You don't seem to think that's true. That
do you hear the arrogance?
Oh, I do.
In that assumption that we know what's better for people than they do, and we just have to educate them. It is appalling.
Yeah, it's
appalling.
appalling.
The lack of humility in my party is appalling. We just got our butts kicked again by a guy who was selling fragrances and sneakers during the election.
As a convicted
That's not
felon.
Abraham Lincoln who just beat us, okay?
Yeah.
That's a guy with 34 indictments.
Yeah, and
this guy's been impeached twice.
And a track record to run on. And pants boxes in Florida. But here's my question to you. Is there I think the problem the Democrats face is that it's not an inclusive enough political movement. I think there's a lot of reasons things you can name. Just speaking on the religious side, I'll say you can't be the majority party if you continue to ignore the majority religion. And a whole lot of other parts of that same equation, could you say. Is there room, Billy, in the thing you're describing, the Democratic Party, for the hard left, for the woke part of the party, for the people who really do believe that words demonstrate a culture's ability of inclusion? Is there room for the left? Or are you saying the only way the Democratic Party can be successful is to get moderate Democrats over to moderate Republicans, and that's how we're going to win? And we have to ignore the edges of both sides of the political aisle.
Okay. I know that the people on the far left care deeply about their country and care deeply about the American experiment, democracy, and what makes America truly great. I know how much they care, okay? But again, if they are in it to help the dispossessed, you cannot help the dispossessed by losing elections. And by leaning to the left, you lose elections. And before anybody throws the New York mayor's election in my face, let me just tell you, I acknowledge that it happened, but I would argue that what that guy ran on was free bus rides and freezing the cost of rent. Okay, those are economic issues.
Yeah.
Economic issues. He was essentially saying, I will put more money in your pocket. Okay, by the way, I don't think he can do either of those two things. See you, Rob. I don't think he can do either of those two things. But he was running on an economic message.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what I would say to anyone who feels young and disaffected and unheard and unseen by their party, I get it. I feel your pain. I understand. I was young once too. But the reality on the ground is that if we keep telling people what pronouns they can use, if we keep insisting that they say justice-involved individual instead of criminal, if we keep trying to die on the hill of you must say unhoused, not homeless, and pregnant person, not pregnant woman, we will keep losing. You will keep losing your rights. Eventually, you won't be able to vote at all. This is the line right now. We will win by moving to the center, by embracing people who have disagreed with us, by inviting them back into the party, not by saying, I told you so, not by saying, let me explain to you why we understand what you need better than you do.
Okay.
One of the things that I've always admired so much about the people like you in your church is your stunning level of humility,
Hmm.
which to me is one of the fundamental Christian values, and certainly one of the fundamental values of Christ
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
is humility. My party could learn something from looking at your church. Our lack of humility since November 5th has been staggering, completely stunning. We just got thumped. Look who we got thumped by. Again, that wasn't Eisenhower.
Right. No, I'm aware. Yeah, no, I know.
Okay? That was Mr. I've cheated on 3 wives guy.
Yeah, it's made me sad
Winning
every day.
Christian voters.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to do things differently. Of course, we've got to talk differently. We just dropped $6.7 billion on an election cycle. And if you stop any American in the middle of the street and say, what does the Democratic Party stand for? He can't tell you.
Yes.
He can't tell you. And if you push him, he'd say, well, I know you hate Trump, you love abortion, you love trans people, and you love open borders. That's our brand. After $6.7 billion, it's hardly the new frontier in terms of inspiring people. Yes, of course, we have to do better.
Do you think there's room for those the left in the coalition, or do you think
Of course. I hate to say it, but where else are they going to go?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the candidates can say, look, this party spans people who use this level of pronouns to this level of explanation. Like, describe America like it is, because a lot of us have families. We have families like this, right? We'll just leave Rob as a blank fill-in spot over there. I mean, I can say in my family that I have a hardcore Trump supporting son and a super woke daughter, and we're all in this thing together. And I like that. And I want the Democratic Party and America's political future to say, you are all a part of this. Now, not on every issue do I want to listen to each one of those people tell me about all the things, right? That's what we have to navigate. Because I feel like for Democrats, the real issue is not do they include, but which part of the party is going to have power. And I don't know. I feel like this has been 50 or 60 years in the making. I don't know. When I was a kid, Billy, I would hear people say stuff about Democrats, and I think my parents were Democrats. But interestingly, I also grew up in an apartment complex, and I think apartment complex raised people think differently.
Change.
Yeah,
of course they do. Of course they do.
Yeah, it's different. It's a different.
Can I just? I want to remind you that our country has a motto. Okay, e pluribus unum, from many one. Okay, the whole idea of this country is compromise. Yeah. Our entire government is built on the idea of compromise. We like to think we're uncompromising people. We're not. That's what that's why we have checks and balances in the government. It's why we have an executive branch that has to compete for power with a congressional branch, a legislative branch, and it's why we have a judicial branch that's supposed to interpret the laws for us.
Yeah.
Right? They're all supposed to watch each other. Yes. They are all supposed to compromise. Right?
Yep.
When did compromising become a bad thing? When did the purity test of the Republican Party transfer over to intolerance on the Democratic Party?
Yeah.
When did that happen? I mean, you can sort of trace it over the course of 40 or 50 years, but the idea of it is from anyone. And that means inside of our party, it seems a weird person to quote, but go back and look at the speech that Jesse Jackson made at, I think it was the 84 Democratic Convention. It might have been 88, but I think it was 84. I could be wrong. But he talked about the patches on his grandmother's quilt.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how each of the constituencies in the Democratic Party is a patch. None of them are big enough.
I love it.
But stitched together, they make a party. They make a quilt that would be big enough. Bill Clinton found a way to harness that in 1992 by
Yeah.
moving to the center. Okay. Obama found a way to harness that
Mm-hmm.
in 2008. He moved to the center.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Joe Biden showed up in 2020, the most centrist guy ever. He didn't govern necessarily in that way, but the way he ran like a centrist.
That's right.
Okay. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
The only way you win, the votes are in the big middle where they have always been.
Yeah. All right.
And,
we have two.
Any young voter out there, and I know many, who didn't want to vote for Kamala because they disagreed with her on Gaza, as an example. Okay. How are you feeling about what's going on in Gaza right now? That Donald Trump is in charge. Like, there's no such thing as a one-issue voter anymore.
That's right.
There's no such thing as a one-issue candidate anymore. Unless that issue is democracy itself.
Yeah.
Where we're for it.
And that didn't go so well.
Right. We're pro-democracy. Turns out they're not. I think maybe that's the one issue.
I think that should be
But
it.
otherwise, we got to go to people where they are and say, oh, you care about whether or not your kid can ever afford a home? So do I. By the way, every candidate that I work with, and that's, as I said, about 80, 85 in Congress, and another 30 that are running to get there, I ask them, in your district, what's the number one issue? Home affordability.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
Every one of them.
Let's talk about that. That's like the ultimate middle class dream, owning a house.
That's right. Yeah. And look, even upper middle class dream and for your kids, and like it's a struggle. Okay. We have two questions I'd love to get your responses to from people that have made comments in the chat. This is Robert Kryling. And I think his comment is helpful in a couple of ways. One, it's what he thinks. And we see Robert here a lot. Hi, Robert. Good to see you. And I think it also creates the dilemma that a lot of Democrats think when they hear someone say, let's reach out to people who are gettable. Okay, so here's Robert's comment. He says, well, if this is what he has been doing to help fellow communist candidates, he's shitting himself along with you degenerates. All right, so hi, Robert, again. Glad to always have you here. But now Robert is saying, you Democrats, and he's on our stream pretty much every week, and his profile picture is him with a guitar, which he has on there, so I want to meet him and chat guitars at least.
Okay.
But he's pretty sure that we're all communists.
Okay.
And that you, with this message, will be shitting on yourself and all of us, and we're all...
Wait, can you read it to me again? I just want to make sure that I'm clear on it so I can give him a solid answer. Okay.
Yeah, and we are all...
If this what he is and has been doing to help fellow communist candidates, he's shitting himself along with you. I went out of my way not to use profanity on this podcast because I thought it was for churchgoers.
Well,
Robert,
it is just cussing churchgoers, apparently the degenerate types as opposed to Robert. But
Melania would say, be best.
Be
okay,
best.
So listen, Robert. Just for the record, I'm a capitalist to my core. Okay. Capitalism has been very, very good to me. I happen to work in an industry that overcompensates people for what they do. It's a miracle that they pay me what they pay me to write and direct movies. That's what they should be paying firefighters and teachers and nurses and people who build roads. That's not the way our society is set up. That's capitalism too. No, I'm not a communist. Communism is a failed experiment. It killed, 100 million people just in the last century alone. So no, that's not what I'm for. Just to be clear, I'm for smart capitalism. When I see a bill that puts our country another $3.6 trillion in debt, so that Jeff Bezos and Peter Thiel and Elon Musk can get richer, I don't think that's smart capitalism.
Right.
I think that's a bad idea. And this may sound communist to you, but the fact is that since 1980, $50 trillion has moved in the American economy from the bottom 90%, which includes you, Robert, to the richest 1%. It's the biggest migration of wealth in human history. And it has happened under Republican presidents and Democratic presidents. We need to account for that too. Um, and it is why people like you feel that the economy is rigged, because it is. Our economy is rigged to make the ultra rich ultra richer. That doesn't make me a communist. That makes me a capitalist who has studied history and knows that capitalism without guardrails is a kind of dangerous thing. We're seeing it happen right now, because capitalism without guardrails is why every Republican member of Congress is in the pocket of corporate America. That's empirically true. Okay. Now, as far as the second part of your missive about I and the rest of the degenerates are going to be shitting ourselves. Well, I'm going to try to take that as a good faith question. I'm going to say no. I don't think we're degenerates. If caring about the elderly and vets and kids makes you a degenerate, okay, maybe we are. If wanting this country to be its best self makes you a degenerate, okay, I guess we are. If thinking that democracy and freedom are the primary American values, if that makes you a degenerate, I'm a degenerate.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Robert, I think you need to look in your soul or go to church and talk to God and see if maybe some reevaluation is necessary. And I do think on a podcast like this, you should watch your language. I just don't think it's the right thing to do.
Well, we appreciate it. Billy, thank you for that. And yeah, Richard, look, we're glad to always have your input. Robert, thank you.
Robert.
And I know, thank you. And I know that for a lot of people, they really do believe, Billy, that the Democrats somehow are, the worst version that there could be of a politician. It's really quite stunning. And I know that runs deep, and a lot of us have views that we don't challenge any longer, and a lot of people just carry them.
Well, okay, but let's be fair. Let's be fair, okay? There's a place in Ohio called Middletown. Okay. Middletown used to be a deep blue town.
Okay.
It was a factory town. It was all union workers, Democrats to their core. Okay. In the 80s, as that migration of wealth started to move,
Yep.
The factories in Middletown started to shut down.
Okay.
And Democrats didn't seem to notice that uniquely American avalanche of wealth moving out of the bottom 90% and into the richest 1%. And Democrats assumed that because Middletown had always voted blue, that it would always continue to vote blue. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, guess how Middletown has voted in every election in recent memory?
Yeah.
Republican.
Yep.
And guess who's from Middletown, Ohio? J.D. Vance.
Yep.
His ascendancy happened on our watch. Why? Because we didn't listen to Middletown.
Yeah. Or even go there.
We didn't go there. Okay. We screamed about Trump when Trump is clearly the symptom and not the problem.
Yeah.
We talked down to Middletown. We told them they were deplorable for even considering voting against us. We acted morally superior and condescending. We said, we're the truth-telling party and you're the liars. And then we lied about the health of Joe Biden for 3 years. We screamed about democracy, and then we installed Kamala as our candidate without making her earn a single primary vote. We talked about how we wanted to get corruption out of government when members of our own political party were trading stocks.
Yep.
Like everybody else.
Yep.
Okay. We need to clean our own house and account for our own hypocrisy. That is not just a Christian value. It is a hugely Jewish value.
Right.
Every year on Yom Kippur, your Day of Atonement, you go to temple and you go, for the sin I have sinned by lying, you hit yourself in the chest. For the sin I have sinned by wishing ill on others. For the sin I have sinned by gossiping, etc.
Yeah.
And by the end of the night, your chest is sore.
Right.
My God, I did
It's a
all
different
those
kind of
things.
chest beating. Yeah.
I did all of those things this year. Okay. And we don't eat for a day, and we atone and we pray and we turn to God with humility and we say, can I please have a clean slate? And at the end of Yom Kippur, you get one. Okay.
Yeah.
Where's that in the Democratic Party?
Yeah.
You cannot have truth and reconciliation without truth. Okay. And so part of what Robert, in his own, I think, misguided way, is saying is, physician, heal thyself, which is, that part's actually fair. We will get Middletown back when we account for our own hypocrisy. And again, a candidate that can do that in a really bold and dramatic way is going to become a messianic figure and lead us out of this darkness. And I think even Robert is going to wind up writing songs for him.
Here's the last one I'd love to hear your reflections on. This is from Shelley. I think Shelley might be new to us. So hi, Shelley. Good to have you. Says, sorry, that's the wrong one from Shelley. Shelley has a couple.
My son says I'm radically left.
Sorry, that's not the one. Okay, so Shelley says, stolen pride, loss and shame, and the rise of the right by this particular author. She loves the people she interviewed over a long time. I hear your rebuttal of arrogance. I love Jesus, and I'm at play. And then she goes on to say, now my son thinks that I've gone all left and I've never argued for pronouns. I own my own house and I want others to as well. And then she goes on to say, capitalism has some problems. I don't think of myself as a Democrat, and Fox News has all kinds of problems, and I'm at play. So I think Shelley represents the kind of person that we meet all the time and that I know so well. And that is, these are people for whom they have an identity that doesn't land comfortably in either political party. But when it comes time to vote, you have to choose one candidate over the other, or your top three, if you live in a place where they use ranked choice voting. But you don't get to vote for them all. You have to make a choice of a candidate, because in this country, we don't vote for bills normally. We don't vote for parties. We vote for a person. There's a name there. And so you have people with this identity struggle. You can see sort of how Robert did it. There's you people and you're communists and you're degenerates. And then there's people like Shelley, who is saying, I don't know where I fit. Do you think that the Democratic Party could get to a place where we could say, we want your vote, and we know that doesn't mean you self-identify as one of us?
Yeah, why not?
In other words, we have a little campaign we're launching called You're Still You If You Vote Blue. It's okay to be you. And it feels like people think that Democrats specifically need them all in on all topics if you're going to vote.
This is what I'm saying. We insist that people celebrate things that they have just learned how to tolerate. That is completely backwards political strategy.
Yeah.
And it's failed.
Yeah.
Of course, we need people in the party that don't agree with us on everything.
When was the last time you heard a candidate you've worked for say out loud something as clear as, I don't need you to agree with me on everything. It's okay if you disagree with me to vote for me. I never hear candidates say that. I don't know why. I mean, it's obvious, self-evident. We all know.
I'm going to tell you why. Again,
okay, tell me why.
They are afraid of offending the 23-year-old Wesleyan grad on their staff.
Oh.
That's why. Look what happened, okay, after the election, days after the election, okay? Seth Moulton, member of Congress from Massachusetts. I happen to be a big fan of his. He is a vet. He is the most solid, sturdy, open, honest, decent guy walking, okay? And after we had just gotten thumped in that election, he said, look, I'm a father of two girls in high school. If one of them got run over in a soccer match by someone who last year was a boy, I'd have a problem with that. I don't think that's a massively controversial thing to say as a father, okay? His campaign manager quit, and one other member of his staff quit. And the University of Tufts University, they disavowed a class he was teaching, okay?
Wow.
Instantly. He didn't all of a sudden say, I've decided to become a Nazi. All he said was, This is my feeling as a parent. Okay. And that was so out of the orthodoxy of our party, who had just lost Donald Trump, that he got shunned. Guess what? Contributions to his war chest went up by 5x.
Wow.
Okay. The people of the party are ready for a different kind of voice, a different kind of fight, and a different kind of party. The party hasn't figured it out yet. I remember once in 1989, I was going to be writing a movie about freshman congressmen. It was going to be one of my first studio movies ever. And I had the privilege of walking the halls of Congress for 2 weeks and listening to members of Congress talk. And I was in a room where they were debating whether or not to ban smoking on airplanes. And one of the members of Congress said, the public's way ahead of us on this. Okay. You will not hear an outcry about it. They're way ahead of us. 1989.
Wow.
Okay. And they banned smoking. Ever heard anyone complain about it? Nope. They've been talking about it for 30 years. The public was way ahead of them. I promise you, the Democratic Party, the rank and file of the party, is way ahead of the hierarchy of the party on this. Wow. The hierarchy of the party has not yet figured it out. They're still doing all the dumb stuff that lost us that election. Okay. But that will stop. It will stop. I know it. I've seen it. I'm walking it every day.
Billy, if you were to take, can you keep going, by the way? I know we've gone now an hour and 23 minutes.
Can we go till 7 more minutes?
Yeah, go 7 more minutes.
Sure.
If you were to write the screenplay that would match this moment in America, and there was the internal conflict that the character is experiencing from your comments earlier, and there was an external dilemma that they were facing, and they need to reconcile and deal with both of those in the screenplay. Have you thought about what that would look like as a metaphor? Like what would that screenplay be? What's the story arc?
Let me think about that.
Like, what is our internal dilemma in America? What's the thing we are trying to work on? And then the election, the drama, the conflict of the election becomes our response to try to solve this internal dialogue. Or maybe that's something that's not quite baked yet.
No, I can bake it. What was the essence, and you'll have to educate me here, what was the essence of Jesus Christ's dispute with the temple? Right? What was the essence of that? He thought it was, let's get the money changers out of the temple, and he thought the temple had become corrupt, right?
Yeah, the religious system had become about itself and was harming and hurting others. Yep.
Right. Let's call that the American government. Okay. That it started with this great idea that was designed to benefit a lot of people, and its corruptions had begun to make it implode. And here comes this outsider, right, who says, we got to change everything. Let's say that the story is about someone who's inside the temple, the church, right, who is resisting. That's what's broken about that character internally.
Yeah.
That they are afraid of change, and they're afraid of what they perceive to be chaos. And so they look upon Jesus as the ultimate threat. Okay. And then they see the moment where Jesus is literally about to be crucified for his beliefs. That in the Hollywood movie, Jesus would never make it onto the cross. Okay. In the Hollywood movie, that person inside the temple would stand in front of Jesus and say, you want to nail this person to the cross? You're going to have to nail me first.
Yeah.
Get me. Okay. And then, because the army would bow down to that person, that person would say, okay, we're starting over. We're listening to this guy. He's got some amazing ideas, and we are not going to make him die in order to prove a point. And then everybody gets along. Okay. I realize I've just rewritten religion for the world. So forgive me, I know that's ambitious, and I understand that the death of Christ is unbelievably powerful
Yeah.
for Christian people
Yeah.
and Christian voters. I'm just saying, if you're going to make a movie about it, the movie would be about the person who changes, not by virtue of Jesus's death, but by virtue of Jesus's teachings,
Yeah.
and by virtue of his own recognition
Yeah. Yeah.
that the temple had been corrupted. That's what needs to happen now. We don't need a martyr to come die to prove our point. We need people inside the Democratic Party to say that the core ideas of this party are so noble, they are worth defending. And
it was
we're
shocking
going
to us
do
in our poll, and maybe other polls show the same thing, about how many people feel that neither political party's aspirations match their aspirations for America. I think they have a sense about what America is, and they have a sense about what the political parties do. But shocking to my mind was how small of a percentage of people thought the Democratic Party got even close compared to, like 14%, where there's only 40% that felt the Republican Party's imagination matched America, which says to me, what you've been saying over and over, there's a big group of people who feel like they want something else from their party. Do you think the Democratic Party is capable of a reimagined story of what a political party's role with the American dream is supposed to be?
I absolutely know it is. I talk to these people all the time. Okay. And I know what they're hearing on the ground. They're not dumb. They know that they-them ad that Trump ran in the last 4 weeks of that campaign, he spent $210 million placing a single ad. Yeah. That thing was on every football game. That's all I do on the weekends in the fall, is watch college football and pro football every Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. For the last 5 weeks of the fall, I was getting bombarded by that ad, and I thought, this is there for a reason.
Yeah.
Okay. We know how to lose. We just did it.
Yeah.
Okay. And we know that the American people need us to win.
Yeah.
Towns like Middletown need us more than anyone, right? No one's going to suffer worse than Middletown over the policies of Trump and Vance. Vance won't be able to go home again. They're going to run that guy out of town on a rail.
Yeah.
Based on what he's doing to Medicaid and vets benefits and union membership. Yeah. They're not the right answer. We have the right answer.
Yeah, we do.
We have to change the way we talk about ourselves. We have to have truth, reconciliation, and humility. And those are religious ideas.
Yeah. All right. In our last minute, we love to ask a guest. So hang on a minute. We love to ask a guest what's behind them. So, if you real quick, what do you choose to have in your particular background? Anything back there, or all of it you want to tell us about?
Sure. Okay. So over there, over there is the poster for Ordinary People. It's the only movie poster on my wall. It's written by the great Alvin Sargent. It's one of the most brilliant screenplays ever produced. And it's there to inspire me. Over my right shoulder is a poster from a series that I was privileged to do on Amazon called The Last Tycoon, which was one of my favorite creative experiences ever. I've really got to work on my
Yeah, whichever way. Yeah, it's back
over there is an American flag, which was framed for me by Congressman Ted Lieu to thank me for my work for our democracy. Over my left shoulder is a Writers Guild Award. In a complete absence of humility, I put it there. It's what I won for Captain Phillips. I'm just very, very fond of that film. And next to it is a UCLA football helmet, because I will be a Bruin until the day I die.
And there's little hanging VIP tags and badges.
Yeah, they're just various.
Is that a rock concert there? I see. Is that
there are various film festivals and political events, and that happened to be from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But it's also
love it.
Like locker room passes to the Rose Bowl. Just things I've been privileged to go to.
Love it. Billy, thank you for all your good work. Thanks for your honesty and for your thoughtfulness in this conversation. It's truly, truly great. It means it just
really
means
been a
the
privilege.
world. Just means the world to us. And so thank you for being such an important part of our friendship and such an important part of all this. I'm just trying to get you over to the last spot here.
You're doing God's work, my friend, and thank you to everyone who listened.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, y'all. Thanks for being a part of this special Wednesday podcast. Share it around. And if you want the audio version, that'll be out later this afternoon. So thank you,
And
Billy.
Robert, wherever you are, I'm praying for you.
Yeah. Oh, Robert will be back. He's
I think I turned him.
He's on our journey. Yeah.
I think I turned him.
Oh, good.
I'm pretty sure. That guy's going to be wearing blue by next week.
It's beautiful. Okay, buddy. All right. Thank you so much. And we'll see you around the horn.
Thanks, man.